being a genius is the last thing that I will ever have to worry about. Yes, I did write a book. My book is called Fine. It's a story about a teenage girl as she struggles with substance use, family drama, and broken relationships. It's a really dark story about the sinister nature of depression among modern day youth. So my book is coming out on May 15th, which is here in about a week, and I'm really excited about it. I think it's a really great story, but more than that, it's also supposed to be a resource for people because the things that the main character experiences in my story are real life red flags of suicide ideation that are presented in a very tangible way to the audience. But what's also really exciting about this book is that at the end, I included a mental health resource packet that includes national suicide hotlines, specific mentions of the red flags of suicide ideation that people can take a look at and have a better idea of what to look for in the people around them. It includes a suicide prevention plan, the Columbia Suicide Risk Assessment, a link to that, as well as a link to instructions and then a basic set of instructions for the readers. It also has a coping skills game that I created myself that I personally play, and I wanted to provide all of that to the readers so that they have a basic starting kit that they can use to expand their understanding of mental health and the things that you can do to protect the people around you. Probably the most specific reason for writing a book like this is catharsis. Tragedy is my favorite genre to write and one of the most beautiful genres in my opinion, because tragedy is meant to help the reader, help the people experiencing this sort of offset tragedy to express their own feelings and let those go. And that's one of the most valuable things about tragedy, and it's one of the things that we often don't see a lot anymore in the literature or the movies or any of the other content that we consume, because we're so focused on wanting to feel good and wanting to hide the pain and wanting to distract from the pain. We sort of forget to just feel the things that we feel, and that's really important to maintaining your mental health. Mental health awareness at the moment is sort of at the top of society's mind because of everything going on with the pandemic and continuously increasing cases of mental health disturbances among youth. We really want to take a focus on this subject and bring it to light and find all of the resources that we can to help with it. And one of the best ways to do that is to first be aware of it, and second, know what you can do to help identify and refer people who are experiencing these issues. As to the question of why now, May is actually Mental Health Awareness Month, and I wanted to provide this resource to people specifically in this month as a way to get the resource packet at the end of the story into people's hands, while also providing them with a good level of entertainment and catharsis and sort of a resource they can use to help realistically identify what all of these things might look like in the people around them. So it's a lot of stuff going into it, but I think it's really important. This is a topic that's very close to my heart, and I wanted to bring it to the world. At the moment, I'm not planning a sequel to this story. I envision it as a standalone novel. However, I am planning on releasing a free companion short story to go along with it, which will just be a short story about the aftermath of the things that happen in the story. There's this question that I've heard people ask in the past about suicide, and usually they'll say something like, this loved one or that family member committed suicide. Does that mean they've gone to hell? I wrote this book as a way to ask that same thing. I think overall this book really asks the question, is it ever too late? And that's what I'm trying to explore. You will have to read the book. I am a writer. That's my job. It's not specifically a Christian book, even though I am asking a very spiritual question. I am a Christian, and that does have an influence on the things that I write. But if I took this book to a publisher, I'm pretty sure they would try to exorcise the demon out of me. And maybe I should let them. This is not a Christian book the way that you have experienced Christian books before. It's a book that's meant to question and test and really ponder very significant moral questions. None of the characters in this story are perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And the one Christian character that I actually present in the story is far from perfect. It's definitely a hard read, and it's not one that's going to show up in any Christian bookstore anytime soon. So normally when I write, I do writing sprints, which are just little segments of time that I set out, where I'll write for 25 minutes straight, and then I'll take a 5-minute break, and then I'll write for 25 minutes again, and rinse and repeat until I've been writing for about 2 hours. I usually don't write more than twice a week. I can usually write about 4,000 words a week doing it this way, and I don't typically write every single day unless it's November, which is National Novel Writing Month, something that I like to take part in every year, and that is the only time in the year that I will write every single day. And it is really hard, and I don't recommend it for for somebody who is just starting out. You really want to build up your wind for writing. When I'm not doing writing sprints, I'm usually working on other projects that I have, other things to upkeep my social media, like my YouTube channel, CC Writes, or my Twitch channel, which is also called CC Writes. So I put a lot of work into various things. That way I can have a little bit of a break between time, and I'm not going to burn myself out. Yeah, it's not really a lot on the surface, but what it is consistent practice. Those two things are really hard to come by, and you really have to work on it, especially if you're like me and you are especially lazy. The worst thing that you can do as a writer is go full tilt at it every second of every day, because you're going to limit the total amount of words that you're going to be capable of writing during that time period, and you're just going to burn yourself out so quickly. I can usually get about 4,000 words per week off of 4 hours of work total in writing. Doing it that way, you can actually have a full novel written in about 3 months and still manage to keep your sanity and your house clean. Definitely not. I think being a genius is the last thing that I will ever have to worry about. Instead of a frenzied sprint to the finish line, my work has always been a little bit more of a cross-country run that's supported more through study and practice to show its merit. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love to be a misunderstood artiste who takes the world by storm overnight, but I've always been more of the quiet, studious type who takes the world by slow infiltration over time. My favorite character is a character named James, who the main character of the story meets at a bar partway through. I actually designed him after my husband. There is this one scene where James asks the main character after she comes out of the restroom, did everything come out okay? And it cracks me up every time I read it because that's exactly the sort of thing that my husband asks. I was actually really happy when my beta readers all told me that James was their favorite character, because it was like sharing a piece of my husband with the world and proving that he is just as wonderful as I always say he is. He really hates it when I brag about him, and I think it's adorable.